have a lot of memories of Grandma, but one that I loved was how she would always pick me up from school. Like if I had migraines all the time, she'd always pick me up and like make me comfortable on the couch and bring me food. And she would always have fresh bread there. She helped us make it for Young Women's. And I remember that she would always say how she never had any grandparents, and she always felt that she was cheated because they all died before she was old enough to even know them. And she would always say that she just wanted to be a good grandma because she didn't ever have any grandparents, and she really was the best grandma. Like I remember telling her a few times right before she passed that like if you thought of all the things that a good grandma should have, she had all of them. And I'm gonna miss so many things. She gave the best hugs. She was so soft. And she always, whenever you went to her house, she would always get a hug before you left. And then when you were walking out the door, she'd say, "Love you, bye, thanks for coming, love you, bye," like 7 times. So we miss that. Yeah.
She would always come to my soccer games and stuff.
What I always remember is, I don't know how many, but probably I stole who knows how many cookies. But always eat chocolate chip. She always had chocolate chip. Just what? And that's my favorite. And I remember coming to my very first football game ever, and it was awesome. That's when I did our first touchdown. It's probably because she's there.
All right. I think the thing that reminds me the most of Grandma's family, she always talked about how important her family was to her and how much she loved each and every one of us. And every time, no matter what event it was, no matter where it was, they'd do whatever they could to be there and watch you and cheer you on from the sidelines. And they never missed telling you that they loved you and that they cared for you, because they thought the world of every single one of us.
So my memory of Grandma would be when when we lived with my dad, Grandma would come every morning and get us ready for school, and she'd do my hair, and she would always fold socks while she was getting us ready. And then on our way to school, I would make her play Mary Did You Know by Kenny Rogers, and we would sit and sing it together. And I also remember in church, Grandma did not have the best voice, you would say, but she sure sang loud, and you could tell it was her. It didn't matter where in the church you were, you could hear her. What's your Sally?
You would always say, "Don't let the bed bugs bite."
Yeah, when you would go to bed, you'd say, "Don't let the bed bugs bite."
If they do, gonna shoot up on cuckoo.
Yeah, she'd tell you that every night. Huh?
I think my greatest memory is every time that we would go over there, she'd always pull up and ask if we were hungry or if we needed anything, and she'd always be more than willing to pop up a thing of toast and give us some bread and jam. Whatever it may be, she was always there and more than willing to help any of us out with whatever it was. She was a very, very good woman and a great grandma.
And she always put her grandkids and everybody was first before herself, and everybody else is taken care of. And I mean, she fixed countless pants of mine, and I'm very grateful that I was able to she made towels for the little kids with her little signature that said "Made with Love and Care" by Grandma Nettie, and so I'm grateful to still have those. So
Wasn't anything she couldn't fix with the sewing machine.
yes, that's for sure.
I guess the greatest memory that I can think of is seeing my little girls on her little rocker, cuddling her, and Grandma singing the different nursery rhymes to them. They definitely enjoyed that.
Okay, say we love you, Grandma.
Tell
We
her,
miss you.
say sleep good.
Say don't let the bed bugs bite.
If they do, gonna shoot knock them cuckoo.
Knock 'em cuckoo.
Cuckoo.
So I'm Annette Chambers, Render Connect, and I have a really fun story to tell you about Annette and I. So before Kim and I started dating, he called to ask me out on a date. But he called an Aunt Annette Chambers, so it was the wrong Annette.
Annette Chambers and Annette Chambers.
To Annette Chambers.
So he says, Annette? And Aunt Annette said, yes. And then he said, Annette? And she said, yes. And then he says, well, I want to take you out on a date. And she says, I don't think you want to take me out. I'm 9 months pregnant. And so, anyway, he figured out that was the wrong Annette. It was my Aunt Annette instead of me. So then he got a hold of me, and that's where we
One
started
thing
out.
led to another.
Yes, that's where we started out. But I have a lot of special memories of Annette and Cleon, and I love them both very much. So anyway, that's my special story about Aunt Annette.
So I was thinking, and I didn't know you did this for Cleon, but I have great memories of both of them. Just when we were little, Christmas days were always awesome. So we would go around to everybody's house and see what they got. So we would always go to Aunt Annette's house, and we would they'd have to put we put our toys out in order so that we could go around and see what they got. So you couldn't play with your toys until everybody left, but that was always fun. And then just Aunt Annette, I remember snowmobiling with you guys and everybody making fun of me because I didn't know how. And I was on the back with my dad and I was hanging the wrong way and everybody's teasing me, and I thought, that wasn't very nice. But we have great memories. Love you.
And I remember that she wore my wedding dress when she and Cleon got married, and I was so happy. And she was such a beautiful bride, and has been so beautiful and lovely ever since. And we have been so close as sisters. And I never had a sister, so she was my sister. And I love her so very much, she and Cleon. And then all of you kids, just part of the family,
Yes.
and we love each and every one of you.
Yes, we do.
Yes.
Every one of you, and you're so blessed to have had such wonderful parents. And we just send our love to each of you, and especially that we could be together forever, all of us. But Cleon and Annette and Garth and I, what a wonderful reunion they're having up in heaven now. That's fine.
Good.
Love you all.
Love you.
What a wonderful woman. I felt privileged to grow up in the ward with all you kids and your parents. I always thought that your parents were such a good example of how marriages should be. They did everything together. They supported one another. I loved going into the home. Annette always had a good home. The spirit was there. She was such a nurturer. Anybody could come in at any time and she would have treats for them. She would feed them. It was a wonderful atmosphere, and I always felt like when I went visiting Chichine there that I got more out of her than she ever got out of my partner and I. What a wonderful woman. I have many pleasant memories of you parents growing up in Smithfield.
I don't think there's any such thing as a bad chamber. I've never met one yet. And especially them. Probably the one thing I can focus on about Annette that a lot of people just, they know, but they don't really think a lot about was her voice. Because I remember the first time after we became the same ward in choir practice, she was sitting in the baritone section, because that's what I am. And I thought, that's odd. What's she doing in the baritone section? But when she opened her mouth, of course, I'd heard her speak before, so I knew her voice was like that. But that she had the lowest voice of any woman I've ever met. But that's just kind of a mild thing compared to her personality, and I remember the same things. They always were together.
She was such a nurturer. She loved everybody.
One of my favorite memories of Grandma is when we would go stay at their house, which we did a lot when I was younger. You'd barely get your head above the banister walking above the stairs, and you were always met with a good morning, no matter what. And she didn't even know who was walking up the stairs, but she always told you good morning, and I'll remember that forever. Your turn.
Well, I've got a lot of good memories of Annette, and I think one of the couple of things that I remember the most about her is she always made me feel welcome. Even when I first met Denise, she always made me feel welcome. And I don't think Grandma had any favorites, but she always made you feel like that you were the favorite. And I appreciated that from her, and I'll always remember that. And we loved her.
What did you like to do at Grandma and Grandpa's house?
Marble.
Play with the marble game, huh? It's your very favorite thing. And you want to share with me? What did you like about Grandma and Grandpa's house? Going to see.
I like with toys in the toy room.
I remember when we FaceTimed Grandma and told her happy birthday and when she came to our football game. What I remember is when we would go and eat dinner with Grandma and Grandpa. Grandpa would always say, "Mama, give me a drink."
I remember when I was younger, every time you'd go into Grandma's house in the morning, she was always willing to cook you some bacon fried eggs in a cast iron skillet. That's what I remember.
So, what I love the most about Grandma is she always made all of us feel so loved. One memory I have is when Kelly and I first started dating was I went to her house for the very first meeting of the family, and I just remember being embraced with loving arms and just feeling so welcome. And then one memory I'm going to miss about Grandma is getting the phone calls on our birthdays and our anniversaries, because she made sure she always had them on the calendar and never forgot to give you a phone call. So that's mine. Oh, and I also love the fact that she just had never-ending love for each one of us, and just loved her family more than anything. So, you want to go next?
Yeah. My favorite memory about Grandma was when we went on that ride with the horses when it was Christmas. And rolls are the best.
Yeah, rolls were the best.
Yeah, that was a good one. I forgot about that one. I didn't even think of that one. So my favorite memory is just something she always did, and she always told us how proud she was of us and how she was so proud of the whole family. Her family was everything, and she was just so proud, and she'd tell you everyone how proud she was of how everyone was doing. So.
And every time we'd leave, she'd always say, "Well, we love you guys," every time, whether it be on a phone call or in person.
You always knew you were loved.
You.
Did you have one? You forgot? Okay.
You want to talk about Grandma's food?
How good the rolls were?
How good the food was going over to Grandma's?
That's one thing that's going to be the hardest is the rolls. Not the hardest, but hard.
Hard.
Because Grandma's good rolls.
Going over to have dinner with her? Yeah. Jumping on the trampoline and spending time with her? Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to share something that everybody else has, but she had a famous egg sandwich. If you didn't get offered one when you walked in the door, then she must not have been feeling good, but she'd always offer you an egg sandwich. They were the best ones.
Yep, I think one of my favorite memories is it didn't matter what time of day it was or if you had just eaten 5 minutes ago. If you walked in there, you had better take some food, because she always wanted to make sure you were fed, and she always offered you plenty of food. So, and I know Slade appreciated that too, because he likes to eat.
You're always welcome to whatever was in her cupboard, whatever was in her fridge.
Except for the cookies Grandpa had hidden.
Oh yeah, if you could find the Oreos, you were pretty lucky.
I found the Oreos.
Oh.
I remember when we would go and eat with her, and she would always ask, "What can we do? What can she do?"
I remember her always going to our softball games and cheering us on, and she would always want to give hugs, and yeah.
My favorite thing about Grandma probably was we'd be farming, me or Chris, and anytime we would go in, she would try and make us a meal. She always wanted to make sure we were taken care of, and she wouldn't take no for an answer half the time, even if you were full, or she wanted to make sure you're taken care of, and she always was just so good to us. And as kids, I'll always remember she always made us homemade pajamas and little pillows and blankets. She was just thoughtful, and she was always crafty.
Well, I wish I had a lot more memories with her, but from what I do know and remember of her, she's always extremely welcoming and loving, and you could always tell, the love that she had for her family and her grandkids and her kids, and she's always been extremely welcoming to me, and we were really excited when we got to tell her that we have a baby on the way, and she was really excited for us, and she's going to be really missed.
Memories of Annette and Cleon. I remember when Dennis and I were little bitty kids, we'd always come up to visit with Grandma and Grandpa, and we'd stay a week in the summer and help with the hay and whatnot. But we would also go up with Aunt Nettie and Uncle Cleon up Logan Canyon, and they had this big old army tent. It was a canvas army tent. It didn't have a bottom. And we would go camping at like Red Banks or some of them other camping areas. And
Tony Grove. Didn't we go to Tony Grove?
Tony Grove, yeah, sometimes. But anyway, we'd go up there camping, and they would let us catch fish in the river, and then we would just do camping things and fires and whatnot. And I can remember one time where we had this big pan of water that they, how little boys are, they get dirty, and so we would they just kind of wash us up a little bit on that big sponge bath.
Especially the feet. I remember.
Yeah, the feet.
Nettie made us wash our feet.
And so anyway, we used that big thing, and it was on the dirt in this big tent. And the next morning when we woke up, a mouse apparently had come and crawled up to get water and fell in that pan. And when it hit that dirty feet water, it probably had a rough time. They was stone dead floating in the water. I remember that. Now that's a crazy memory, but there you go. Your turn, Dennis. Okay. You're on. You're up to bat.
All right. Well, I remember Michael and I would go up in the summer to help on the farm, weeding, beets, hauling hay, whatever. And in the afternoon, Nettie would pile us in the truck and drive us up Smithfield Canyon and drive us up as high as we could and drop us off, and we'd fish the river all the way back down, and she'd drive back up later in the evening and pick us up.
Yeah,
so I
good
remember
times.
doing that.
I'm
working on the farm.
One time on that, when we were doing that, I remember walking along and this little trail along the edge of the stream, and I stepped right on a snake. I have no idea what kind of snake it was, but I caught the branches of the trees on my way back down, so I was okay.
Okay,
Teresa,
I
your
remember
turn.
going up there and spending a lot of summers at Natty and Cleon's, and I didn't work on the farm so much. I fed a few calves bottles. That was fun. And Uncle Cleon would take me for rides on the horses, but we were all out playing. Lisa, Denise, and I, Julie. We found this big hornet's nest. We just thought it was a pretty weed, brought it home that night, and the next morning we woke up and everything had hatched, and the larva was climbing up all the curtains and on the walls, and Aunt Nettie was freaking out. She was like, oh my goodness. I saw her on the phone with Mom, like, look what these kids did, and blah, blah, blah. It was hilarious. And then one time we got home from church, and she had 2 big pans of rolls that had risen, like they were beautiful, and Chris just went and smashed everyone. They were all like flat, 2 big. She was so upset. Anyway, and she made me cutest little, our matching Easter dresses. I remember that. That was fun. Yeah, I love spending time at their home.
Yeah.
Fun cousin time.
Yeah. All the girls had the same dress.
Yeah, we all had matching
Including
Easter
you.
dresses, including me and Sweetie. So it was awesome.
I remember one December, Michael and I, you weren't around at that time,
Okay.
but I don't remember you being there. But we spent Christmas Eve and Christmas Day with Uncle Cleon, Aunt Nettie, and we were in the basement sleeping that night. And of course Santa appeared. It wasn't me. But we could hear our parents and Uncle Cleon and Aunt Nettie upstairs. They had to build things, put things together. We could hear them up there playing with the toys and laughing.
That was fun.
Good memories.
Yes.
Yeah, that was fun.
Great.
One more thing I remember.
Oh boy.
Let's do it.
Staying there in the kitchen table. It wasn't the house that their last house that they were in, but it was the house before that. And I remember in the kitchen getting up in the early morning, and Nettie and Cleon was sitting at the table, and Cleon would be sitting there reading the mail or the newspaper, but he's dressed, but he didn't have a shirt on. He just had his garments on.
Right.
And they're reading the paper or whatever, and whenever a car drove by, they would both jump up and look out the window to see who it was. And then they'd sit down. It was so funny to watch them both go up at the same time, whoop, look and see who it was, and then they'd sit down. Here's Uncle Cleon just in his garmies.
That's living in a small town.
That's right.
There you go.
Awesome.
Nettie was 8 years old when Sharon and I were born, and as young children, we shared a bedroom with her. Sometimes we would get into her jewelry and things, and when she got home from school, she would be really angry, so we would run behind Mother, and she could fuss at Mother. When she and Cleon got married, things improved. She would sew for us, and we would watch her children and do housework, so it worked out well. She was such a good sister. She made every outfit that Sharon and I wore for our singing group, the Triple Tones. She was even thoughtful enough to make dresses for us for our high school graduation. She invited our boyfriends over to dinner and was very loving. She was always helpful. She would help you with a ride or with a recipe or whatever you needed help with. She is so loving, and she has always been so. I love her so much, and I'm very grateful that she's been our sister. When I grow up, I want to be just like her.
Annette and I were more like sisters rather than just friends. All the 61 years we've known each other, we've had that kind of relationship. We met through our husbands, Seth and Cleon, and they were good friends all the way through school, and they went to church and graduated together. And so they got together and had us, both couples got together, and we went over to Cleon's and Annette and had supper, and that was the first time we had anything to do with them. But we had a special relationship right from the start. She and I were both skinny back then, way back then. And all we had to do to remedy that was to get pregnant. And it was funny, we'd sit there and say, gosh, I wish I could wear this and I wish I could wear that, but I'm too skinny. I wish I had those days back. But anyway, we started, we'd been married, we got married a year after they did, and they'd been trying for a whole year to get pregnant, and they weren't successful, but I didn't have that problem. I got pregnant right after we got married, about 3 months after, and so I think she prayed extra hard because she got pregnant pretty soon after I did, and so we compared notes all the time we were pregnant, and I had Ron in August, and then she had Lisa in October, and so we had fun going through that experience together. And it happened that it was that way with each one of our pregnancies for the first 5 of her kids. Todd was, I think he was about 2 months younger than Denise. And Julie was 6 months younger than Jay. And Kelly and Chris were only 5 days apart. And then Scott and Stacy were, I think, a week apart. And so we had fun with our kids, and we used to get together and take them for rides and stuff in the wagon. But it was funny, when she got pregnant with Julie, her due date was sometime in March, I think, or April, I can't remember now. But she came here one day, and it was about first part of March, and she says, we was talking about her pregnancy, and I says, well, you'll probably wait and have it on my birthday, which is the 30th of March. She says, if I have to wait that long, I'll be dead. Oh, guess what day she had it on? She had it on the 30th of March. And I teased her about that for years, and I don't know whether she appreciated it or not, but I got a charge out of it, and I tormented her with that for quite a while. Let's see. Annette and I always enjoyed going to the club and shopping and going on little trips with her husbands. We especially enjoyed going on horse rides and camping with them and friends. We had fun going to the Calgary Stampede and the State Fair, or just going out to eat. We've been there for each other all through these years, and all through sicknesses and other trials. When I had breast cancer, Annette did all she could to help me, and I don't know what I would have done without her calling up and cheering me up and helping me. And she was always there for me when Seth went through his trials with Parkinson's. In the 6 years since he passed away, she told me she was going to call me every day and check on me, and she did. We've had a wonderful relationship, and I'm going to miss her. I already do. Every day about 1:30, I expect her to call. So it's going to take a while for me to not have that anymore. She was and is my best friend, and I'm going to miss her. Love you, Annette.
Okay, I'll go. I have a lot of good memories of Annette, but oh shoot. I think my favorite memory of Annette is, this might be strange to some people, but I just remember her singing in sacrament meeting, and I always knew where Annette was because she has such an awesome voice, and she always, I could always hear her, so it just somehow that brought me comfort. I love that. So
I have a lot of memories of Annette and then Cleon's house and all the kids, and I always felt like Annette could fix anything, she could cook anything, she could do anything, and I love that about her. And she did. Yeah, I know. And she always would give us a ride when my mom wouldn't. And I remember so many things. I was thinking about it when I was driving up today, and I remember that when Cleon would get a deer or Chris would get a deer, and they would get that jerky made at Lauer's. Do you remember the jerky that she kept in the freezer downstairs? And I remember Stacy and we would get into that a little too much. And I remember her, telling us that we couldn't have so much of that jerky, but we loved that jerky. That's
the jerky, the homemade bread, the hardtack.
Yeah.
All of those things just remind me of that. We just loved you guys so much. So, but I would like to get together.
Not at a funeral.
I'm not planning another one of these. So, could we really plan something not around this?
Yeah. We can even have you come.
Yeah.
Party.
Yeah. It doesn't have to be a funeral.
I love it.
Go ahead, Wes.
All right, so I got chastised because my memory during Cleon's actually didn't include Cleon. It was just Stephanie beating me up, which was a harsh reality of my life. Okay, so Stephanie still did beat me up, regardless of whether she wants to admit it or not.
And she doesn't need to feel bad about it.
Maybe she should.
She made him the man he is today.
So, to repent for my lack of Cleon memory, so my memory from Cleon that I'll remember for forever is I would always be like leading one of my mules or donkeys up and down the road. And Cleon, it didn't matter whether he was on his motorcycle or in the truck or in the tractor or whatever, he had to lock the brakes up. And he had to make sure that I could hear him, and he would always say, "Which end of the rope is the jackass on?" and that never got old for him.
And Wes still doesn't know which end of the rope.
So anyway, so that's my Cleon memory. I shared this last night as I went through with some of the girls, but definitely hardtack.
Yes.
I will never see hardtack anywhere in the world.
I don't think I've seen it since
I will never see it anywhere that I don't think of Annette.
Yeah.
That is something that to me that is like her. That is her signature.
Yep.
To have her hardtack, I will keep this probably forever.
And every one of us took 2 bags.
Yes. Yes, we did.
Got one to eat and one to keep.
Yep.
And then my other memory is I have been the one who's been the lifelong neighbor. Never had anything going for me, so never went anywhere. And I couldn't see Annette that she didn't come and give me a hug, and then just tell me that she'd always say, "I love you like a son." And I think that was probably for 2 reasons. I think actually probably Chris was a big disappointment. So she was looking for a replacement. And hey, look no further because I'm your guy. But the other was actually mostly just because of the person that she was. I'm certain that I'm not the only one who she loved like a son or a daughter, just because of just what an amazing person she was. So.
Yes, that's very true. One of my favorite memories to repent and about Cleon also is I remember being just little and going up to Franklin Basin with them to cut firewood. We never did go cut firewood. We always had ours either hauled in or we burned coal. But I remember really enjoying going there and then helping them split in that old woodshed.
Riding in Blue Thunder.
And so that was always working hard, with them. And then, like they've stated with Annette, I always just remember the hardtack, always great food there. One of my also favorite memories is every time we'd be out playing in the winter with you guys is we'd always come in and that wood burning stove would be roaring.
So warm.
And there'd be Ovaltine there ready for us after Stephanie beat us up. and so,
Stephanie never beat me up, ever.
Shelly never beat me up either.
Yeah, so those are just some of the favorite memories. One of my favorite memories that maybe we haven't said also is this is from our mom. I always loved this, is she would always complain that Annette would call her before 7 a.m.
I remember that too.
And she would always be like, "Oh, we're not all farmers' wives." And I loved that because it was just so funny because we all know Marcia loved to sleep in. And we just loved it that Annette would call her and wake her up. So
we did.
That was great.
She never accepted that she was a farmer.
Yes. So we love you all. Thanks so much. But we need to do this without a funeral.
Love you guys.
Love you guys.
So one of my fondest memories of Grandma is that no matter what time of day, no matter what, like whether she was sick or whatever, she always wanted to make sure everybody was taken care of before she did anything for herself. She would you'd go in any time of day, make sure you hadn't, or make sure you'd eat in. Always wanted to make sure we were full, So just one of my fondest memories. She always took care of everybody else before she worried about herself.
She'd always tell us she loved us before we left.
Annette was the best sister-in-law in the whole world. I loved her dearly, and I will miss her phone calls. She called me 3 or 4 times every single week to make sure I was okay. And I was supposed to die before she did. Anyway, I loved her dearly. She was always held the family together, and there wasn't a mean bone in her body. I love her dearly.
She didn't have a mean bone. The thing that I remember most about my Aunt Nettie is that when we had the rendezvous and she sent out the invitations, the very last thing she said is, "You are loved." And I'll always remember that. You are loved, Aunt Nettie.
Aunt Nettie, I'm just gonna say thank you for everything you brought to me as a human being. You taught me a lot, and you were like my second mother growing up. Memories of being up at the farm and just playing and just being with you, and the things that you did as a human being were just extraordinary. Gonna miss you, and just know that we love you, and thank you for everything that you did. It's making me a human being today. Thank you for all the fun times at the rendezvous, how you just made everybody feel so special at those with the trophies and giving out to all the kids, and how you took that time to show every individual how special and how much they were as a part of your life. And so thank you for all of that. And love you and I miss you.
My biggest memory is I'm going over and having egg sandwiches in the morning and German pancakes, and she was just an amazing lady, and I'm very grateful that I got to call her grandma. I don't know who's gonna fix my pants and make me egg sandwiches now, but I'm glad she's happy and she's with grandpa, and I'm just thankful I got to call her grandma.
We could play.
We could play! Yeah, she really wanted us to play, huh?
That we took a picture by her barn.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun, huh, with everyone. What else do you remember? Yeah.
Catching butterflies.
Oh, you like trying to catch butterflies, huh?
We put on those ski jets.
That was a lot of fun, huh? When we got to do the snowmobiles.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, and they showed us how to do all the tricks.
That was pretty cool, huh?
Yeah.
Do you have any on the list?
I think for sure her hospitality, how she just made you feel like you were part of the family.
And we went around to see all the animals.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Quite a few things, huh?
Mhm.
That's good. Yeah. Mine, like Andrew said, the hospitality, always feeling like a part of the family. Yeah, the rolls are famous. That's one thing that
Oh.
definitely miss Thanksgiving. Yeah, just always having a place to go.
Yeah, having family, no matter what, huh?
Oh,
Because that
and
was so
she-
important to her.
And she did that slide.
Yeah.
That was fun.
That was a lot of fun when she did when we did the family reunion in their backyard.
And the slide.
And the slide and the slip and slide, yeah. Yeah. We say we love you.
We love you.
Yeah,
Love
we
you.
love you. We'll miss you so much and have you in our prayers, huh?
I think, I know it's been talked about, we had a conversation with her about how much her grandkids mean to her, and that's just
How much her family meant to
family
her.
means to her, yeah.
And how important that was to her to have a family and spend time with family.
Yeah, and it's just one of those things when you get older, you realize how important it is. And then just to have it all the time and not think about it till you get older.
Take it for granted.
Yep.
Huh. Yeah. Okay, so so many memories of Grandma Chambers. Probably some of the biggest ones that kind of come up is when we go to her house to get our Christmas Eve present that we
didn't know was pajamas.
Homemade pajamas.
Like, oh, you're gonna go to grandma's house to get your present. We're like, oh, I wonder what it is. It's pajamas. Because we just, happened to get measured a couple months before to see, for random clothes that we were getting for school or something silly. So that was always a fun memory, is to get those pajamas. And the big pajamas that she'd make were sometimes really funny, and they're like interesting looking, but they were very, very fun. And I remember those. I'm very grateful that I was able to get some homemade things from her. Definitely, I think, the rolls that she makes. We spent a lot of time with food related stuff, rolls, homemade stuff. We were in the same ward growing up, and so I'd go sit by and be like, so Grandma, what's for supper? And she'd tell me what they were eating for supper, and then I would go tell my mom, hey, I'm going over to Grandma's house and I'm gonna eat their food because maybe it's better than yours. Sometimes, right? So that was definitely a good memory, of spending time with dinner time at after church, and being able to see her a lot there, living across the street from them when I was younger and going over to their house a lot. Rolls, pajamas. I liked when she'd come over, and like even just with Jamie, we'd come over and we'd be eating popcorn on the couch and watching her games, sitting there downstairs with the dogs on her lap, like she'd trying to keep them away by feeding them popcorn and stuff, so they would be right next to her. So many memories. I wish I could think of more off the top of my head, but I loved being able to see her at my games and know that she was supporting me, and same with Grandpa. I'll probably think of more in a second, but you can go. Making bread.
I think a big thing with Grandma was just that she was a constant in my life. Whether that was my basketball games or coming over to my parents' house when I'd have games that they couldn't be at. They would always come over, and then I would get a video of them telling me that they were proud of me after the game. But Grandma was just such a constant in my life, whether that was when you were on a walk or a bike ride, that you could just always come in and she'd be in her chair and she'd mute her TV show to talk to you, and then you'd give her a hug goodbye, and she gave the best hugs. And I remember making bread with her for personal progress, and it's probably the only memory I have of personal progress. Grateful for personal progress, that I was able to bake bread with her, and
Did you do that with?
I think she did that with all of us.
Yeah. Every week they're like, oh, this bread tastes really good, and you're like, yeah, me and my grandma made
The best time I've ever taken sacrament.
Yeah.
And then I just remember when I went through the temple that she was able to be there with me, and just being in there with her was really special. And when she was in the hospital right before she passed, I asked her if she was excited to see Grandpa, and that was like the most energy I saw from her when she said yes. And so I'm just happy that they're together, and very grateful that I had the opportunity, and I know that Heavenly Father loves me because He gave me grandparents like that. So
lots of good memories. I was very grateful that I was able to see her in the hospital before she passed away. We actually watched Jeopardy and Wheel of Fortune the night before she passed away. She's like, it's 6 o'clock, it's 6:30. We need to watch the show. Turn on the show. So she couldn't find it before, and we found it and was able to get it so she could watch her shows before, and it was really special to be able to spend those last little moments with her. So
grateful for Grandma.
Lots of memories of Grandma, and we love her so much.
Annette was a great lady. If you ever had anything foul to say, she was first to correct you. There's only one time I can ever remember her not ever correcting me, is when Chris ran me over. A commodity shed. I remember her feeding me many breakfasts, lunches, working on a farm. That's about it. Awesome food.
So we're Jared and Amy Parker. We knew Annette primarily from working at SLA at the auction yard. She worked for us there for longer than we owned the place. And two favorite memories of Annette there. One day the sale was just about to start and the phone rings and somebody picks the phone up and they says, Smithfield Auction, and Annette says, "It's Annette. I've been making cookies and I just doubled the salt, so I've got to double the whole batch. So I'm gonna be late." And whoever answered the phone said, "Well, bring some cookies." And she showed up late and she brought plenty of cookies. And my very favorite memory of Annette is that I walked in the office one day and I was looking for some paperwork or something, and Annette says, "Jared, do you need a hug?" And it caught me off guard. I didn't know what to do, and I turned to her like this, ready for a big hug, and she hands me a bag of Hershey's Hugs, and she says, "Here you go." And we all had a good laugh over that. It was just a Hershey's Hug that she was going to give me, but we laughed about that for years afterward.
Well, and Annette, my older children worked the auction, and she was just always so good to them, and she kind of adopted all the kids around her, and they took care of her. She took care of them and was always willing to share her meals. If she had an extra roll with her lunch, she always would give it to one of the kids, and she'd say, "You look hungry, eat more, And one time I can remember we had gotten some soup, and Sharon must have not seasoned it very well, and so some of the ladies was complaining about the salt, and Annette opens up her little drawer, and she had kept a salt and pepper shaker right there because she really liked her stuff seasoned as well. And so I remember that she was always a super good cook, which all of her daughters inherited. They all are good cooks, and I've known Annette for a lot of years. I was smack dab in between Steph and Amy, and showed horses with them. So I've known Annette for a long time, and she's always been someone that I've looked up to because she's just so dang sweet. And I don't think I've ever heard her speak badly about anybody. I've never seen her upset. She just was a good lady to look up to and to admire, and raised a wonderful family. We dearly love all of her children. Chris obviously worked at the auction barn as well, and actually set us up because I knew Chris from riding horses with Steph. And I came to the auction one day to check prices on my sheep herd for my FFA packet, and I said, "Chris, who's the cute kid?" And Chris said, "Well, that's Jared," and he introduced us, and 9 months later we were married. But anyways, so that family, the whole Chambers family, we dearly love. We'll miss Cleon and Annette a lot, but we know they're happy, and we just love all of you guys.
We may not be blood, but the Chambers family are family to us just the same.
Sure.
We love you.
We love you guys.
I'm sure I'm probably not the only one that shared this memory, or maybe something similar. But when I think of Annette, I think of the countless times I was there, and you never left hungry. Whether it was a complete meal or a snack or whatever it was, she would always offer you food and continue to offer it to you until you took some, and then took some more, and took some more, and usually had a bellyache by the time you left because you were so full. But it was always just awesome. It was great food, and she just was so hospitable and just wanted to make you feel warm and welcome and not hungry.
I have so many memories, but what I have been thinking about with the viewing and stuff and listening to everybody's comments, it made me think a lot about what you made us realize was important in life. And I don't ever remember you putting on makeup. You never really cared like what you wore, as long as you had clothes to wear. You didn't go buy new clothes. You didn't worry about getting your hair done or your nails done or anything, but you always worried about what was important, and that was family, spending time together, caring for other people, and you definitely taught us how to serve others, and I'm very grateful for that.
Okay, some memories that I have. One of them, I want to tell about Dad first because I didn't get in here on that one. And the one on Dad is we used to always have contests to see who could stand on their head the longest. And we would, on the front floor, there would be 3 or 4 of us and we'd all be standing on our head trying to, do it the longest. And Dad usually won. He was pretty good at it. And then I have memory with Mom. I was kind of a tomboy when I was younger. And there was some cute little mice out on the lawn. And I grabbed a mouse and went in, and she just happened to be in the tub, and I went and kind of hung it over her head. And she yelled at me to get it out of there. She did not like it. Let's see. Anything else that you can remember?
I know people have probably already shared memories about how much she cooks and stuff, but I remember I was there once spending the night just by myself, and I had already eaten, and I got there and she had another meal for me, and I felt bad, so I ate it too. And she just kept feeding me and feeding me and feeding me, and then I ended up throwing up later because I had ate so much of her food because I didn't want to tell her no.
Okay. We always gotta give her hugs too, and she would always say, because Tess would be like, "Oh, gotta go back and give a hug," and she said, "Yep, if she has to, but we got to get hugs from Grandma, huh?" And we told her, or she always told us that she hoped she was alive to see the babies born, and we told her she would be, huh? But she'll just get to take care of the babies in heaven until they come down. She never treated us kids any differently than, us stepkids any differently than any of the other grandkids. And she's always supporting everybody. Just lots of love. There's so much, huh? Is there anything else you want to share? No? Okay.
So one of my memories of Grandma was how she always got us the Christmas pajamas. And one time she got me, it was a onesie, I think, and it had a hole in the butt. And I was the only one with the hole in the butt. So I was so embarrassed by it. It was so bad. So, yeah.
And I got roped into saying another one because Chloe didn't want to be alone. So another time I was staying there, or every time I stayed there, I'd always have cereal. And she would not let me dump out the last little bit of milk in the bottom of my cereal. I had to drink all the milk. And for a while I hated it, so.
One of my memories I'm going to share with you guys is when I was 15 or 16 years old. I was still in high school, but Mother was mad at me, and we were kind of arguing back and forth, and she threatened to slap my face. And I didn't think she would. I said, "Go ahead and slap my face. I don't care." And she reached up and slapped my face and made my teeth hurt. And I remember that day forward, don't ever challenge Mother, because she's not going to back down for you. So I just want to tell Mother we love you and we're going to miss you. And we're proud of the legacy that you left behind us for us kids to follow. Thanks.
It was one of my favorite memories about just with Grandpa and Grandma. Anytime I walk in there, he always calls me Shorty, and I always call him Midget.
I think another one of the things, I've already shared a couple different things, but anytime you'd walk into the house, whether you're just eating, we're gonna eat anything, Grandma would say, "Have you eaten dinner yet? Because I've got food for you could eat." Or anytime, one of my favorite memories is when we'd all come split wood. Or during the wintertime, we'd come up to the house and Grandma would be like, "Hey, carry some pieces of wood and the fire's getting low." So we'd always carry wood in for them.
My favorite memory of Grandma would be the famous egg sandwiches. Classic. Couldn't get them anywhere else. Couldn't even make them yourself.
Even though we tried,
Yeah,
they don't taste as good.
Nope. Mine is, I took a pair of pants for her to patch, and they had holes in the knees because that's the style now. But she patched those. She wasn't supposed to, and I got them back, and they were patched as well as the hole on the leg. And let's see, they came out to our house for my birthday, and Grandma always says, "If it wasn't 2 weeks ago, I don't remember it." Well, Grandpa piped up, and he was like, "Well, Grandma could hide her own Easter eggs, and she would be able to, go and hunt for them." So, yeah, that's a good memory.
So I remember when I was younger, I don't even know what grade I was in, but I remember coming home from school and she was sitting at the end of the kitchen table and she was crying. And I was like, what's wrong? And their dog, Grizz, which was one of Chris's dogs, had died. And I remember thinking, why are you crying over a dog? That was very odd to me, but she cared for everything. And then another one I wanted to share is Dad's funeral. Suzette Rock came through the line and just said how Mother was her visiting teacher, and other people when they were her visiting teacher, they would come by once and then they wouldn't come back. But Mother kept coming back, and she'd always call her, and still to this day, well, not no more, but she would call and check on Suzette and make sure she was doing okay. And that was really a special thing for Suzette. And so I just think everyone should know that Mom cared about everyone all the time.